The desert always wakes up before humans. When the sun has not yet risen above the horizon, the wind has already begun to pull grains of sand across the terracotta roofs of the small town of Aram. This place has no castles, no powerful armies, and no wealthy merchants passing through every day. What has kept Aram alive for hundreds of years is just a trade that seems completely useless. They repair books, not writing books, not selling books, but mending books so old that no one wants to open them anymore. In a small house tucked away at the end of the street, the soft sound of turning pages echoes. A teenager sits by the window. His brown hair is slightly messy from the wind. The sand-colored scarf around his neck gently moves. His thin hands carefully use a small pen to trace over each faded ink stroke on an old page. That is Ala Sideria, 16 years old. The only person in town who spends more time talking to books than to humans. He puts the pen down, gently brushes the dust off the book cover, then smiles faintly. I'm sorry to have kept you waiting for so long. The room remains silent, but to Ayla, every book is like a friend who has been asleep for a very long time, just waiting for someone to gently wake them up. Right at that moment, knock, knock, knock. There is a knock at the door, 3 times. Slow, steady, not rushed at all. Allah stands up and opens the door. In front of him is a man wearing a gray cloak covered in desert sand. The strangest thing is not his face, but he holds in his arms a book wrapped in a white cloth that has yellowed with time. The man places the book on the table. I need you to repair it. Allah bends down to look. No title, no symbols, no writing of any kind on the cover. That is very rare. He raises his head. Where did you get it? The man remains silent, then frowns. He stops. His gaze becomes empty. Once more. Don't remember. Allah says nothing, but for the first time in many years of repairing books, he feels something very strange. Not because of the book, but because of the look in the man's eyes in front of him. That is not the look of a person trying to hide the truth. That is the look of a person who has truly lost it. Morning in Aram always began with the sound of wind chimes hanging under the eaves. The small chimes made of old bronze clinked against each other whenever the desert wind blew through, creating a gentle sound like the town's greeting for a new day. But that morning, Allah did not hear the sound of the chimes. He had stayed awake almost all night. The nameless book still lay on the wooden table. The antique lamp next to it had been out for a long time, but Allah still sat there, resting his chin on his hand, staring blankly at the book cover. It was too ordinary. A layer of ivory white cloth that had yellowed over time. No patterns, no title, no seal. But that very ordinariness was what made it strange. Allah gently touched the surface of the cover, cold. Not the coldness of metal, nor the coldness of stone, but the feeling of an object that had lay in the dark for too long. He tried to open the book. The first page was completely blank. The second page was also blank. The third page, still blank. Allah flipped faster. 10 pages, 20 pages, 100 pages. The entire book contained only blank sheets of paper. He smiled faintly. And yet, I stayed awake all night for you. Right at that moment, the first ray of sunlight pierced through the window, falling exactly on the bronze lamp placed next to the book. The light reflected off the lamp's body, then bounced off as a ray of light as thin as a thread. That ray of light glided across the book cover. A very small sound rang out. Click. Allah was startled. He leaned in close. Right in the middle of the book cover, a line of black ink was slowly appearing, not being written, but like someone was dragging an invisible pen across the paper. That line curved into a symbol that Allah had never seen before. It did not belong to any alphabet. It was not like the language of the northern merchants, nor was it like the ancient language in the manuscripts he used to restore. It only appeared for a few seconds, then vanished. The room returned to silence. Allah stood up abruptly. Without hesitation, he picked up the book, threw his scarf over his shoulder, and rushed out of the house. The man from yesterday, he definitely knew something. If he could find him, perhaps the secret would have an answer. The main street of Aram was beginning to get crowded. The bakery had just opened. Spice sellers were spreading out bags of seasonings onto their counters. A camel caravan slowly passed through the square. Allah ran from one person to another. "Excuse me, did anyone see a man in a gray cloak yesterday?" An old woman selling tea shook her head. A blacksmith frowned. "A gray cloak? I don't remember." Allah continued to ask. "A goat herder, a little girl selling flowers, a merchant?" The answers were all the same. "I don't remember. Never seen him. I don't know." By noon, Allah stopped in the middle of the square. Sweat soaked his hair. What made him afraid was not that he couldn't find the man, but that no one remembered he had ever appeared. Even the owner of the drink shop opposite Allah's house, who always sat looking out at the street all day, asserted, "Yesterday, there was no one in front of your house." Allah was stunned. It was impossible. He himself had opened the door, had spoken to him, had received the book. It was impossible that after just one night, a human being could disappear from the memory of the entire town. He looked down at the book he was holding in his arms. For the first time, a terrifying thought appeared. If a person can be forgotten, could it be one day I might also disappear from everyone's memory? The desert wind blew harder. The long scarf behind Allah's back flew up. Right at that moment, from inside the crowd, a very small voice rang out. "Finally, someone has seen that book." Allah turned around sharply. An old man was standing under the shadow of an old palm tree. He wore a wide-brimmed hat that had faded in color. A small white bird perched on his shoulder. The strangest thing was that no one around seemed to notice his presence. The old man smiled, then gently raised his hand. "Don't just stand there. If you hold that book for a few more minutes, this entire town will begin to forget you too."